Cryptic Curiosity. We're your hosts,
Amber.
and JoJo. And today we are going to be talking about the Skinwalker Ranch.
So what did you think of Skinwalker Ranch and what you found on it?
I think it sounds creepy AF.
That's an understatement.
But I'd like to check it out.
See, I don't know if I'd be doing any camping trips in Skinwalker Ranch. I mean,
Of course, yeah, I'm talking out my butt. I don't think I would like to really check that out.
I'll ask you again after we get done talking about it and see if you still want to go stay the night at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, especially because the freaking... you can't kill them things.
Yeah. and the whole question, what are those things?
Yeah.
It just... No. That whole place is a whole... Nope.
It's
no.
like,
no.
That's some vampire shit right there. You can only kill it with, what was it? A
Silver bullet.
Knife. Yeah, rubbed in white ash.
No. I found a lot of interesting facts about the area. That 100 million years ago, an asteroid hit that place. The epicenter was Skinwalker Ranch. Dr. Travis on the History Channel, Skinwalker Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch show. He's the one that brought that up. Like, no, this big asteroid hit right there 100 million years ago, and it hit hard. So I thought that was interesting and maybe something that plays into all of the phenomenon that does happen at Skinwalker. Maybe something either got broken or got ripped open when that asteroid hit, and it's remained open this whole time. Pretty much since people have been in that area, they've documented one way or another that there's weird shit in the sky that should not be there, and there's weird creatures that are in the woods, and that they will follow you home, and there's lots of documentation on poltergeist activity. If you're in that area and you go home, there's a very high chance that you're going to see something weird, you're going to feel something weird, or something weird's going to happen to you.
Did you see what has happened to cows?
But that, like, whatever
They cut
side,
a hole into the center of the eye of the cow.
and that stuff has been documented back in, where
And then they carved out
the sex organs and
the rectum and stuff.
Supposedly,
I don't think animals do that, do they?
No, and normally it's not a perfect, it's not a perfect surgical extraction. They're gonna gnaw it off there, so it's gonna be a mess. The natives in the area believe that the whole Skinwalker situation is because of a curse that the Navajos put on the Utes over the Utes joining campaign against the Navajo. So they cursed the land, and from my understanding of all the interviews that I watched and all of the firsthand accounts that I watched and read about, that even the Utes to this day tell their children, you don't look that way because something will come home with you, and it's not nice. So they still believe absolutely that is a big no spot. You don't go there, you don't even look in that direction.
Did you know that they are pretty much known as witches, the Skinwalkers?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I caught of it, as they're witches that went towards
the bad,
dark magic.
Yeah, they
the
did
dark
the bad
magic. And now they have a path to walk between dimensions and shapeshift, is from what I understood of it.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big concept, that you can just slice open a portal and walk through it at whim and change what you look like. That's horrifying.
Yeah, pretty horrifying, but kind of cool. Well, it would be cool. You could do it.
In one interview I watched, they described Skinwalker Ranch as the Disneyland of the paranormal. half of me is like, let's go. And the other
Right?
half of me is like, no. No. There was a lot of other interesting things. Most of the owners have reported some kind of weird activity. There's only been a few owners that are like, no, nothing happened. I don't know what you're talking about. Something I found really interesting is the Myers family were the original owners of Skinwalker Ranch. They didn't live there. They lived there pretty long, but their family members said that they didn't experience anything. That the joke was the aliens didn't show up until the Shermans bought it. That could have just been trying to save the reputation of their deceased family members. You know,
Right.
you don't want them remembered as somebody that's crazy or that believes in aliens, because we're talking like the 40s through the 60s. At that
Mm-hmm.
time, you didn't walk around talking about aliens were real. Nowadays, things are a little bit different. I mean, you have the Air Force releasing video of what the fuck is that? And now it's not becoming a question of if they're here, it's what they're here for. Because they're obviously here. There's too many people have seen that stuff, and not just in one place. But where things start getting interesting, I mean, all this time there's cattle mutilations, there's reports of interdimensional portals or some type of portals opening up.
And like
Everybody is
fireballs and stuff in the sky.
right. Everybody, not just on the ranch, but in the area, is reporting weird stuff. So it's
Well,
not
there's
like
radiation also.
right. Well, the Nevada test sites, I mean, it's not very far in the scheme of things if you're talking about like something like nuclear fallout. It's only about 400 miles from the Nevada test site. It's also only about 400 miles from Area 51. If you
Oh.
actually put these three locations in a map on Google Map as like Destination 1, Skinwalker Ranch, Destination 2, Nevada test sites, Destination 3, Area 51, or you actually have to put in the town that it's in. But it forms a great big triangle on a map.
Oh, really?
To where if you were a UFO and had capabilities of like interdimensional or intergalactic travel, or however you want to say it, or what the proper way to say it is, that really would be a blink of an eye. 400 miles. I mean, it's not a big deal in an airplane.
Yeah.
So maybe there's stuff there or stuff going on that our government doesn't tell us about. Like, they know exactly what's going on. That's what Area 51 is. That's where they meet up, shake hands, do shit, sign papers. We don't know. A lot of shit we don't know.
It's like secretive. They're like, nope.
Well, that kind of goes right into the next part of ownership is the Sherman family owned it, and they didn't own it for very long because a whole bunch of cattle mutilations, dogs getting vaporized,
They owned it
uh,
in '94.
and they sold it in '96.
Okay, yeah, so
Now,
that wasn't very long at all.
the Shermans they're the ones that really start talking about there's some weird stuff going on here. We can't explain it. Well, they started going under because they were trying to operate it as a running ranch, raise cattle and stuff. The weirdest story I heard from the Shermans where they couldn't find four bulls. No, you've seen a bull. That's a pretty large animal.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
it does
found,
say that some of them, they disappeared. They could never find them.
well, the strangest one, I mean, cows wander off, bulls get out. That's possible. Coyote got it, drug it off. You're never going to find it. There's a natural explanation for livestock disappearing. But you'd still think you would see some signs like blood splatter or something of it being attacked. But what they found was they were missing four of them, and they were stacked in a trailer, like a horse trailer, where there's no way there shouldn't be one bull in there, let alone four. At the time, the property was being studied, and they looked at it and stuff like that, and it may not have been the Shermans at this time, it may have been under Bigelow, but they looked at the door, like the inside of the door, and there was cobwebs all over the inside of it. So nothing opened the door and got those four bulls in there. And he said that when he found them, that they were all like in a trance, and the minute he yelled for his wife, that's when it broke the trance and the bulls started freaking out and busted out of it and ran off. But they like even had to talk him into getting in the corral. They're like, no, I'm not going to any more confined spaces.
Holy shit.
But that was the strangest. Like, I grew up right next door to a cow farm. I know how bulls act, and there's a reason that, you know, being stubborn is related to that animal. You don't make it do what it don't want to do.
Right.
So, and the fact that there was four big, large,
Yeah,
large, stubborn
I wouldn't
animals
be
in a very
arguing
tight
with them.
spot, they're not going to be coaxed in there. That's something like, yeah, how'd that happen? And nobody heard anything. Nobody heard any noises. It didn't wake nobody up. It was just four missing, and they find them in this little trailer, like all stacked up in a weird pattern where they couldn't have got in there naturally that way. The Sherman family sold the ranch to Robert Bigelow. He was a real estate tycoon in Nevada. Now, he was a big UFO buff and liked all things weird and creepy, and bought it because he wanted to find out why Skinwalker Ranch was weird and creepy. He started the National Institute for Discovery of Science, or NIDS. When you go down the Skinwalker Ranch rabbit hole, there's lots of acronyms that get thrown at you. Pretty much, Robert Bigelow was pretty much in bed with the government, where he was studying it on his own, and the government was studying it and giving him money to study it, and great big huge secret project nobody knew about that the taxpayers were paying for, but we don't get to know what the results were of any of that study. They're under lock and key, they're classified, they don't release them. Robert Bigelow doesn't really say, yeah, there's specific things there, and he doesn't really say that there's not. And he tends to lean more towards there's nothing there. We didn't find anything. They couldn't repeat or make things repeat to explain it. So, yeah, so there's like 20 years from 1996 until 2013 or 2015. It was being studied by private scientists, and there was government activity because there was members of the military and from government agencies that have came out later. And there's actually books that you can pick up by George Knapp and Colm Keller and George Knapp. Colm Keller was
You say calm?
Colm, and his last name is Kelleher, and George Knapp. They wrote a book together called The Hunt for Skinwalker, Science Confronts the Unexplained at the Remote Ranch in Utah. He was one of the people there studying the ranch. He tells what he's seen. You don't know who George Knapp is. He's pretty much a investigative reporter that people that have shit to tell that can't, or that they're not supposed to tell, they go to him to tell it. He's done interviews with lots of people on like expose type things where they're exposing things that the general public aren't made aware of. But there's two books actually that you can find with George Knapp involved. Lots of them were personal stories from the people that were there at that time, giving personal accounts. Everything from portals being opened and creatures coming out of the portals and the portal closing and the creature stays.
That is like so fucking creepy.
No. And these are military personnel that are telling these
Oh
accounts.
gosh.
Now, people that are in the military are trained that this fringe stuff we're talking about, aliens, nobody's got time for that. This is the mission at hand, this is what you do. They're trained not to pay attention to that stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So for there to be a military member that's like, no, I seen it. No, the shit opened up. He came out of it. It closed up, and the motherfucker didn't go back in the hole. Um, to me, that has a little bit more merit, and because I know that they're not supposed to acknowledge that's not there. They're taught to block it out.
Right.
So like I said, I hold that with a little bit more credit and merit,
Yeah,
just
it makes it
because
a little bit more believable.
that they're not gonna do. I mean, there's of course people that seek attention and stuff like that that want to make grand stories just so they have something to talk about. But when you're talking about something that was part of your job, that's where I think it would be a little bit more credible, which was this was the
Yeah.
case. So nobody really knows why Robert Bigelow ended up selling the ranch, but he sold it to Brandon Fugel. Now he's the skeptic. He doesn't really believe in any of this paranormal stuff. But he bought it because he knew that there's 100, or over 100 years of history, whether it's a cave drawing or glyph from Native American tribes in the area, or when settlers starting, there's accounts all through like 200 years of the same phenomenon happening over and over again. So he bought the ranch with that I want to know too type mentality, purposely for the sole purpose of studying the ranch and finding out what's causing it, what's there. But he bought it under his real estate company's name, which is Adamantium Real Estate, which I found funny because what is Wolverine's claws made out of? Adamantium. He bought the ranch in 2016. Never intended on being public with owning it, just wanted to study it and figure it out, and kind of had the idea that maybe people do need to know about this. Maybe what they're finding does need to be public knowledge. And they, combined with the History Channel, started filming The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, where you watch them perform experiments and where they document as much activity as they can. They do have a web page. You do have to pay to be a member, but they do have cameras set up everywhere where they're live streamed. You can,
Oh, that's cool.
submit evidence that you find watching the cameras, because realistically, nobody could watch them all 24 hours a day.
Right.
Um, so that's cool. I mean, I think that's kind of a little bit more transparent than, most paranormal investigations. It does seem to be done from a pretty scientific standpoint. Everybody that's involved is a professional in the area that they do. So if they're there for security, they're a professional in security. If they're a scientist, then they hold multiple degrees that make sense. Like I think it's Dr. Taylor is his name. He has degrees in astrophysics and engineering, so it makes sense that you would want somebody with that background looking at how does something work.
Okay, I have a stupid question. What
Mhm.
is that?
What is what?
The word you just said.
What word did I say? Astrophysics?
Yes, that word.
Astrophysics is a science that employs the methods and principles of physics and chemistry in the study of astronomical objects and phenomena. The even right down to the caretakers that Brandon have on the ranch are scientists in something related, either geology or anthropology, which is the study of people. He even has somebody there that is kind of like an intermediary between the native population and being their neighbor pretty much, because the Ute reservation is on the other side of the mesa. So it's somebody that can kind of make sure that there's no tension with the native population. Most definitely don't want to offend the people that were there first.
Right.
And that probably look at you as a trespasser. Something else in relation to that whole triangle thing and location of the Skinwalker Ranch is, do you know what a ley line is?
I've heard of it before.
You'll also hear people talk about ley lines when they're talking about the Salem witch trials.
Mm-hmm.
There's a theory that because these ley lines run right through Salem and they're described as kind of like arteries of energy throughout the earth.
Yeah.
So the theory is because there was that artery of energy running through Salem, it made those teenage girls go into hysterics and blame all these people for being witches that really weren't. Well, Skinwalker Ranch has like a grid of ley lines underneath it.
Oh, damn.
And some of the back and forth that I was reading in comments on like discussion boards and stuff like that on Skinwalker Ranch, a lot of people don't like the show because they don't see the science in it, and why are you doing the same thing over and over again, and blah blah blah. But the things that they have documented and they have shown you, I think it's common sense that when you're dealing with a subject like this that may have real world implications on defense, maybe if there is technology that they find there, that's going to impact like our technology if we figure out how to use it,
Yeah.
which we're like little monkeys. We're gonna use it bad. We like to blow everybody up. And that's what we would do with it. So we would want to protect that, and we wouldn't want anybody else to have that technology because that's how the United States works.
Right.
For all of you listening in other countries, we are some selfish mofos. It's ours. That's it. You ain't getting it unless you have a nice, pretty penny. Then we might sell it to you or like let you have a look.
Sad but true.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-American at all. I love the country we live in and don't think that there is one that I can't find one better because
Right.
I'm mouthy. That First Amendment right to sit on here and run my mouth, I love it. Obviously, that's what we do. We're not that we're a hugely warlike society, but the United States likes their guns, and we like to find out how the best way to blow things up and also the best way to block you from blowing us up. So if we had this technology that nobody else did, that would create a situation where somebody would want to take it. And also there's the moral dilemma, should we use it? But nobody really knows what's underneath Skinwalker Ranch, what's above it. There was a few, like I said, some few interesting things, experiments that they did on the show.
That's
There was
creepy
one
that
where
nobody knows.
the really creepy thing is it's almost like the land itself doesn't want you to find out. Like the thing that was told over and over again through the firsthand accounts with when there was studies under Bigelow that it was like something was purposely making these experiments fail. Either equipment would fail or, all of a sudden a storm would roll in and you can't do it. It was like the place itself was stopping it. And on the show, they document a lot of weird stuff like that, like where it's almost like I said, the ranch itself doesn't like there's something intelligent that knows what we're doing and doesn't want us to find out. Like
That's a scary thought.
you almost have the impression that there is something in the land. Like there's accounts of the mesa opening up and UFOs going in it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I said, where it took me back to the real world, the map of how close Nevada test sites are, how close Area 51 is. If we really do have their shit that we stole or found in Area 51, it would make sense if they're going to watch us to make sure that the dumb little monkeys don't blow up the universe.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of the impression that you get, is that they're watching us every bit as we're watching them. What they are, nobody knows. But there's a lot of crazy lights in the sky. There is
I don't
a,
look at the sky very often. Not as much as I should. I live in
and that
town, so it's light polluted.
and that's something we used to do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go outside and lay on your mom's deck with a blanket and watch
She's
creepy
got the
shit in the sky.
best freaking yard for looking at the stars.
So there's a grid pattern of ley lines underneath Skinwalker Ranch. So what if there's the possibility that there's a bunch of natural explanations that could explain it. Like the meteor hitting,
Yeah, that could play a big part.
the fact that we set off nukes 400 miles away on a regular basis for a very long time.
That
Um,
too can play a big factor.
but how far back the phenomenon's been reported? I mean, we're talking way back before nuclear, tests were in the area.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true though. It did save like what 17th century or something like that.
right. So that would be for any really real human technological interference. So the natural things that would be occurring is the ley lines, the fact that an asteroid hit that spot.
Yeah, I think that alone could probably have.
I did look up whether or not there's an active volcano anywhere near there,
Oh yeah.
and I couldn't find anything that said there was. What I did find said that while it does not have any active volcanoes, there are several basalt flows in the West Desert area that are several hundred years old. Also, the supervolcano that's underneath Yellowstone, that's not very far away. And in the scheme of things, it's just a few hundred miles away.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
so that may also, there could be some tectonic issues, but from what I'm understanding of what has been talked about with the research under Bigelow, that's what they were looking at. Is there anything geological or that, nuclear or anything natural that could explain it? And they were not able to answer anything definitively. What you see on the show, it kind of looks to me like they're hinting at trying to tell you what's going on, is maybe they're kind of have somewhat of a gag order. I would imagine, like I said, the government
Oh
having an
yeah, I'm sure they
interest
probably do.
in keeping things. We're not allowed to know everything. We're just allowed to know what they want us to know.
Exactly.
It makes sense that they would only be allowed, or the FCC is only going to let so much go on the air, show what they want us to see, which is pretty much a bunch of experiments that hint at there's something under the rock or that there's something above the ranch. They did a 3D model where they flew a drone over the ranch and it did this big 3D printout picture. And how it works is it takes thousands of pictures, like in a minute, of the area. And it uses all those pictures from a bunch of different angles to build a 3D model, digital model of the area.
That's
And
cool.
when they did that, there's a place that they call the triangle, which you can actually see it with like where the roads form and stuff like that, that it makes like a triangle. It's almost dead center in the mesa, like on the flat part. Anytime that they shoot anything up to do an experiment there, it's almost like it's diverted away from the spot. But there was something like a structure that they could see in the 3D model that you could not see with your eyes. When they try to fly through the area, like through with a helicopter or a plane, something messes with the instrumentation. where they can't get the exact data they're looking for. Going back into where it seems like there's something intelligent that's purposely thwarting. We don't want you to know this. We don't want you to know this. The geological information that they share on the show, where they did tests of the soil, what's underneath it. There's pretty much every element you need to make things like solar panels or electronic components, the actual things that need to be refined to produce those things, which are rare elements, so they're not found easily or everywhere. They have a bunch of it in their soil. I mean, it would make sense if the asteroid hitting carried that, deposited that there. But
Right.
maybe that's what the lights are then there for. Or maybe it's just like this perfect storm of like a dimension rip because the asteroid hitting and the material that's left, like feeds energy into that dimensional rip that allows all of this to go on. And maybe there's something smarter than us out there that doesn't want us to blow up the universe because we're dumb monkeys that like to blow shit up. But if you think of something that's that smart and can understand and manipulate something that we can't even comprehend,
That's
that's
so
exactly
scary.
and that's exactly what we would look like to them, is how we look at chimpanzees. Dumb little
True.
monkey. That would, it makes sense to me, and I think that that's probably what's going on, is they're probably watching us and studying us to make sure we don't be messing with stuff too much. And they probably don't like that we found their shit and you're holding it in Area
Oh, I'm
51 and
sure they don't.
trying to reverse engineer it. And like, they're probably like, just don't touch that button. Just don't touch that button.
What's this do?
Nobody will say for sure it's aliens or that it's like a heaven and hell type situation, or if it's just another dimension and things from other places can come and go as they please in that area. I'm curious to know if there's other places that have the same thing going on, because there's cryptids everywhere. I mean, you can
Yeah.
Google cryptid in your state or in your country, and
You
some
probably
countries
pretty
have.
much find them everywhere.
So I'm wondering if the presence of cryptids, is it a red flag of maybe there's one of these rips there that allows this portal thing?
That would make
Inter-
so much sense, though.
Interesting. Michigan has the Dogman. We talked about that in an earlier episode. Michigan also has an anomaly place called the Mystery Spot, where
Is it
it's a
in
magnet.
Michigan?
There's more than one, but
Oh, okay.
the one in Michigan, there's things like things that shouldn't be magnetic are, or
Oh.
where perception is off, compasses don't work. It's explained as an anomaly in the magnetic pole in that area. And Michigan has tons, we have a cryptid story. There's also other strange disappearances that have happened in Michigan. We also have the Michigan Triangle that maybe we'll do an episode on.
There's also
And
weird lights in Michigan. I can't remember what part of Michigan, but there's one that had to do with lights. Or a
there's
light.
the Pulsing lights, I do believe that's what that's called, where it shows up on time. I mean, there's lots of paranormal things that appear to be natural that happen in Michigan. So maybe there is something to that, that if there's a cryptid in your area, maybe there's a hole in space time. Sounds like Star Trek, and it's so strange that
But
now,
it would make it would make sense.
but when we were kids, if we were to sit around and talk about those things, people would be like, yeah, whatever, you're crazy, go get your tinfoil hat on, little girl. But nowadays, because there's, so much you're able to document everything yourself. Everybody has a
Yeah.
camera in their phone. So you can just whip out something and record what you see, and you can't always explain what you see. we're you can search YouTube all day and sit there for weeks looking
Right.
at videos recorded by people of strange things in the sky. And
There are many, many.
so like I said, I think it's less likely. The question anymore isn't, is there something out there? I think that we got that answer. It's what do they
Right.
want? What do they want? And it would really, really would be funny if it was they're sitting around looking at us like they are so stupid.
I know we're very arrogant to think that we could be the only thing.
Yeah, I do think that the idea that we're the only thing in not just the universe, but in everything. Just there is an infinite amount of star systems to think that we are the only planet
Tells you
in
how fucking arrogant we are. That's like horrible.
I don't question whether or not if there is something out there. It makes sense that there's something else out there.
I'd be more shocked to hear that there is not.
Right. Now the idea that they have the technology to get that distance within their lifetime, because we can't do that,
Right.
and have that technology to travel that way, that in itself is scary, a scary possibility. Just in our realm of existence, to be able to do some Captain Picard shit and go to a whole different star system, let alone galaxy or whatever.
Yeah. That's definitely some Star Trek shit.
I would say Skinwalker Ranch is a living, breathing Twilight Zone episode.
It really does sound like it.
Alfred Hitchcock couldn't have dreamt that up.
Seeing wolves, UFOs.
So you have entities,
Weird looking cows from mutations from the radiation.
the type of entity that I was most curious about was this, where it's described as, do you remember what the Predator looked like in the movie where it went all like you could see something was there but you couldn't?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they see. And I heard another story that happened in Ohio where a lady was hunting and she seen the shit too, and she tried to take a picture of it, and of course the picture's all blurry and you really can't tell what you're looking at. That's scary.
That's very scary.
That's scary.
It
Maybe
kind of
that's,
sucks though about the pictures, because
but again,
even
if
if
they're
they got good pictures, people wouldn't believe them.
right, they would say that they're doctored in some way because you can hand people.
So it's like the photo thing just sucks.
You can hand people proof on a silver platter and they're going to pick it apart. Nope,
Yeah.
it's fake. It's fake. Like I said, half of me makes me want to ask if I can come help. I mean, I'll clean up cow poop. I just want to see what the fuck's going on. And the other half of me is like, no, stupid. No.
You're that nosy person out there vacuuming your yard to see what's
Yep.
going on across the street.
And, it is pretty remote where it's located. There's like nothing around it, so there's not like a Walmart next door or nothing like that. But
could you imagine? Oh my god.
The portal opening up on aisle 7. Oh, Janine just got sucked in.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's some Stranger Things kind of shit right there.
Maybe that's why they don't like just be like, here we are, because they know we can't handle it.
Yeah, we would fucking die.
We'd blow ourselves up.
Handle it.
Like every country would set off.
We couldn't even handle the fact that we had no toilet paper, for God's sakes.
This is what blows my mind about people. And a long time ago, I heard a quote, and I've never heard anything more true about the human race. And it was, a person is a rational, understanding, intelligent creature. People are scared, dangerous, oh, I can't remember what the last of it was, but it was pretty much the whole idea of is if you have one person one-on-one, they have more capability of understanding than telling a group of people the same information. That herd mentality takes over, and you end
Yeah,
up with shit like
that's true.
happened in the Capitol where they stormed it. That's a perfect example of like that mob mentality that they're talking about. That where
Mm-hmm.
people just get dangerous when we're grouped together.
It's like
But I
everybody's
think that
brain stops working.
I think that's what it, and that's why they come to people one on one, because I think that if it is an alien civilization, if they've been studying us since we got here, which it
They know
kind of
damn
looks
well that we can't handle it.
right, that they know that they can't just, but they want to, maybe there's something about us that it's possible that all of it is the same thing that we're doing or they're doing at Skinwalker. They're studying us. That's why there's abductions. That's why they
Right.
mess with animals. They're seeing how shit works here. Probably their stuff doesn't work the same way ours does. Then there's a lot of diverse life on Earth. Now there's not
Yeah,
just
there is.
people. There's not just, monkeys. There's not just horses. Maybe on their planet there's just one type of life. And that's what fascinates them. And they don't understand why the dumb monkeys keep firing flashlights at them. And, you know, because the one that you're watching, The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, that's what runs through my head is that this is an alien race or multiple alien races, probably like a coalition here to study us because we're weird.
Because we're weird.
Well,
It's
to
true, though,
them,
we are.
we would be probably extremely strange and stupid. We're
Right.
in the scheme of things, we were just using fire just not too long ago, and now we're flying around blowing stuff up all the time. Probably freaking them out a little bit.
Like, abort mission.
But that's what runs through my head is like when they're shooting lasers in the sky and stuff like that and shooting rockets up in the sky to try to get through this one point, which is probably where they're sitting. Like, these dumb little monkeys keep shining this light and I'm trying to sleep. Because when something happens like that, they get it, like a response happens. Like, somebody will start feeling really sick. The dude with all the PhDs and stuff after his name, he opened a cover on a well, and he got radiation poisoning, like to the
Oh,
point where
damn.
he had burns on his skin. Another dude, there's some weird thing about you're not supposed to dig on the ranch. Like it's been like
Oh, really?
the
I don't
Shermans
think
had
I've
the
seen
rule,
that.
but you're not supposed to dig on the ranch. And every time they do, the ranch seems to attack this Thomas dude. Like he's got like 2 head injuries out of it, and the doctors can't even explain how or what is going on. So if it is another civilization, they've even figured out how to hurt us and not kill us necessarily.
Wow.
So the Thomas dude had a pretty serious injury, whereas like the fat cells were separating away from his skull, almost
Oh,
like it was being
Jesus.
pulled. And the doctor got radiation burns on his hands and on his face, and ended up having like serious medical problems over it. But yeah, it seems to completely understand how to tell us no and what will make us stop. Other people, they just start feeling sick or weird or like they're gonna faint or pass out, and it's usually those people that have the hitchhiker effect, that they take something home with them and they experience like poltergeist activity at their house, or will see a skinwalker or a wolf-like creature in their yard,
Oh my
or
god, that would
hear
scare
it in
me
their
so
house.
bad.
You hear them say it over and over again when they have like people come in to help them with experiences. If anything like that happens, tell us. We want to know, because that's part of it too. Like,
Wow.
and the natives telling their children, don't even look in that direction because it can follow you home. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Again, half of me wants to go camping.
But do you really?
It's that, do you really want to know? You know,
Exactly.
because I want to know, but do I really want to know? Like, could I actually handle that
Probably
proof, right?
not, which is why, because we're not meant to know, because, yeah.
Well, I mean, the people there that live there and have lived there, I think they know more than they let on they do.
Oh, that I'm sure, probably.
Maybe they don't know exactly what it is. Like, they can say it's, ghosts or interdimensional beings or witches that went to the dark side or whatever. They can't definitively say what it is, but I bet you they all have an idea. I kind of think that there's a combination of things going on there. I think there's some natural elements that are aiding it to happen, like the ley lines and the meteor or the asteroid hitting, and the
Well,
fact that
shit,
we let
just those two alone would be enough, you would think.
especially with the experiment they did where they plugged in a wire and a battery into the ground, the dirt, and a flashlight, and the ground acted as a conductor and lit the flashlight. Then they
Yeah, see, that's
disconnect.
crazy.
Then they disconnected the battery, so they disconnected the power source and just had the line in the ground and the line attached to the flashlight, and it still lit up. That's not supposed to happen.
Wow. Yeah, that's something.
Here's a thought. Maybe all those elements in the ground and the ley lines and the fact that we lit off nukes like made this massive super battery that aliens can just come in and charge their shit. Or just like a gas station.
That's very
That
possible.
that that's why they come and go, or it seems like they come and go. Maybe it's just like a stop on the way that they can recharge their shit and move on. That's why they don't really fuck with us, because they need us not to mess with that. And every time we do, they punish us.
Like, God damn it, would y'all stop?
And maybe that you see them so much there, maybe they've got like people that's got to watch us. Like, no, they can't be fucking up this shit. Just make sure the dumb monkeys don't touch that.
That's
I
scary,
think
though. I
it
laugh, but that's scary.
it's scary that that could really be something that's going on. That and it be something so mundane. Like it's not like they're studying us. Maybe they don't really give a shit about us. That really we just have a perfect storm right there in one spot that, and like the Skinwalker stuff is unrelated. They don't even know about that shit. Like that's our shit to deal with. And that
Could be.
that's why because it does seem like they pop in and then pop right back out. Like now you see me, now you don't type.
Yeah, it's not like they stay for a long time.
Or
I
maybe
mean, they
those
could, I guess.
and us just not see them.
Tell
Maybe
them go
when
on.
they see that little flicker in the sky or the little light in the sky, that
Maybe
what's a
why.
scarier thought, that it's an interdimensional thing or that it's an alien civilization or multiple alien civilizations, or that it's possibly both going on at the same time.
Both for me.
Yeah, I think one or the other would be something that you could wrap your head around. But the fact that there seems to be more than one thing going on.
I wouldn't be able to handle it. If I truly thought I could, I wouldn't be so scared of things.
What if it is like somehow proves that hell is real? Because if hell is real, that means heaven is too.
Right?
I think that's the answers to those questions that we can't handle. And
Probably why you don't find out until you're gone, if we find out at all.
I'm definitely going to continue to watch The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch because now I'm hooked. Now I want to know. I think another terrifying thought is if there's one place on Earth like this, the possibility that there's lots of places on Earth like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that anybody's ever going to get the answer to Skinwalker Ranch because I don't think that until we get to the point where we can understand it, I don't think whatever is there is going to let us find out. It'll
Yeah,
let us
probably
know
not
what we can understand, and that's about it.
Yeah.
There definitely does seem to be something intelligent and in control. Something knows what they're trying to do, what they're doing, and it even knows how to make them stop almost instantly. Now the question is is we're probably perceived by these much more intelligent beings, or we'll just leave it at that. If we keep shining flashlights in their eyes and keep throwing annoying little rockets at their ship and keep trying to fly planes and helicopters through their stuff, how much is it going to be until it's where they're going to consider it hostile?
Right.
That's is another terrifying thought. What if, even if they know that all we're trying to do is figure out what's there, and we don't stop and we do something that crosses a line?
Which, let's be real, humans would do very quickly.
That's all we know how to do is poke the bear. Another thing that's documented in the show is that there's government agencies paying attention to what they're doing, flying over, saying that they got a survey for this or survey for that. Another
Right.
interesting fact about Utah is there's a lot of oil in Utah.
Oh, is there?
So pragmatically, the no drilling thing could be possibly because there's oil rights situation there, that somebody owns the oil underneath Skinwalker, and that's why they're not allowed to dig. Why would you or people that dig be physically hurt not shortly after they dig? And it's not, unless it's like some weird, what's that thing in Alaska? The thing that harp. Unless it's some like weird targeted harp thing, they're able to
Targeted
pin.
harp thing.
You don't know what harp is?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Harp is a government installation in Alaska that nobody really knows what it is.
Uh,
It's supposed it's supposed to be like a weather study place. Conspiracy of that place is people think that what we're really doing there is controlling the weather. And mind control experiments, like there's a story about sometime during the first Iraq War, a group of opposing soldiers spontaneously shit themselves,
what
and
the
that was
fuck?
attributed to HARP. That somehow
I've never heard of harp before.
we caused that. Jesse Ventura used to have a show about conspiracies where he would go and like investigate, and you can probably find that episode on YouTube. Probably just you or look up Jesse Ventura conspiracies. It'll probably come up in HARP. It's HAR or HAARP.
Oh, okay.
He goes there, and like as soon as he gets close to the place, like their cell phones jam, their cameras start shutting off. A lot of people believe it's like an electromagnetic weapon and something that can somehow control the weather or cause weather in certain places. Like we're weaponizing weather, and
That's
um,
scary.
that is, and nobody really knows if that's what's going on or not. We could also do do a whole episode on HARP, because there, there's a lot of conspiracy around that, and I don't
Can't
really
believe I
like
haven't
that
heard
word.
of that before.
I don't
That's
really like
weird.
that word, but what else are you gonna call it when there's a physical place that you're there? No, 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 you can't know. Why
Right.
can't I know? What are you doing there? They should really be, if they don't want us to know something, they should just come right out and tell us some bullshit. And I think that's what they tried to do with the weather study thing, is tell us some bullshit.
Try to get us to believe it.
Well, and they did the same thing with Area 51.
Hmm.
You know, supposedly, or it was something else first, and then supposedly a crash happened, and there's UFOs, and there's a whole other rabbit hole with that place that we could also do an episode on. Maybe you guys should tell us that. Leave it in the comments. What do you guys want us to do? Do you want to hear about more alien stuff? Do you want to hear More cryptids? More ghosts? Anybody want me to tell the entire story of Washington Street?
Anything spooky.
Yeah, we're not going to be up here discussing what to have for dinner. That's not the point of the show. Jillian and I will both just order a pizza and be done with it.
Yep.
There ain't no Martha Stewart's in this crowd. What do you guys think about Skinwalker Ranch? Are you aware of any more phenomenon that wasn't covered that we didn't mention? What are your ideas on what's really going on there? Do you think it's just a geographical anomaly, or interdimensional species, or aliens, or just nothing at all and people are making it up to sell a TV show?
Let us know in the comments below.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell to get notified every time we upload. Links to where to listen to our podcast are going to be listed in the description box below.